The movie opens with young Vanessa, who struggles with basic school work but tries her very best with great support from her boyfriend Chopper. When he takes her home, they are greeted by her mother, who is trying to make new friends the illegal way. The two get into an argument as Vanessa doesn't support this, but she is sent away. They live in a dismal motel where her stepfather is lazying about. She confronts him about her mother's indecent job and why he doesn't make her stop, but he is dismissive and it's clear he only cares about the money. On the news, a detective warns the public about a serial killer who's attacking young girls on the LA freeway. Even though she's interested in the story, her stepfather switches channels, stating they don't have to worry about it because it's far from them. He indulges on some chemicals, and then makes an inappropriate move on her. But Vanessa quickly counters with a barrage of much-deserved punches and kicks. Meanwhile, thinking she's made a friend, her mom soon realized it's the wrong one and is swiftly detained, and things go from bad to worse when the cops find bad chemicals in her purse. They coming inside the house, they also arrest the stepfather. Vanessa isn't fazed by this and it seems she knows the drill. They have to call in her social worker. She tells them she isn't hurt and hugs her mom goodbye before the two are taken away. While they wait, she asks the policewoman if she could go home with her as she's a good girl who can cook and clean, but the woman makes an obvious excuse that Vanessa picks up on. When the social worker arrives, they greet each other with warm familiarity. Vanessa doesn't want to go to a home and would prefer to go to her grandmother who lives in LA. Only problem is that the lady doesn't know she exists as she never got along with her mother. Sadly, the social worker can't make any concessions and they proceed to pack her belongings. Vanessa tricks the kind lady and locks her to the bed, apologizing and promising the super would let her free soon, then escapes in the lady's car. She goes to Chopper, who's in business, and tells him her plans of leaving to LA to her grandma's, but he can't go with her as he has a parole hearing. He hands her a gift she could sell for money before bidding each other farewell. She doesn't see what happens when a disgruntled associate makes a fatal complaint and sadly ends Chopper with no means of defense. Upon entering the freeway to LA, her car breaks down. Luckily for her, a good Samaritan stops and offers her some assistance. But he's no mechanic and can't get it to work, so he offers her a ride, which she gladly accepts with no reservations about abandoning her car. Our chap's name is Bob and he is a counselor at a school for troubled boys, and making small talk is no problem for him. She finds it real easy to talk to him and tells him about her mom's troubles, her dysfunctional family and where she's headed to. He's a great listener and offers follow-up questions that she openly answers. They two get on rather well and no sooner have to make a rest stop. Their conversation continues and she shows him pictures of her grandmother and a man she believes is her father, not knowing it's of an infamous person. Bob wants to take a short walk before they continue their journey and she agrees. She continues to tell him about her tragic past experiences, jumping from one foster home to another and how she's had to defend herself from indecent people. She gets upset and he comforts her. Back in the car, he asks her to continue telling him her most intimate secrets, reassuring her that it's all part of his effort to help her overcome them. She trusts him with the most confidential, harrowing experiences. When she tries to stop, he calmly but eagerly urges her on. As she does, we then see his demeanor shifting from that of interested concern to that of sadistic glee. He makes inappropriate comments and Vanessa gets really upset and demands he stop the car immediately. When he doesn't, she rips the keys from the car and he abruptly stops. But he's removed the door handle so she can't get out. He aggressively orders her to put the keys back in the ignition, then cuts a lock of hair from head. She now realizes that he must be the man from the news and asks why he does these horrible things. He answers that he's sick of chemical-dependent and degenerate people, accusing her of being just as manipulative as they are. Trying to appeal to his humanity does nothing but make him more vile and offensive. He compares her to her mom and she makes the mistake of commenting on his mother when he gives her a tummy ache. Ordering her about, she smartly plays on her stress, folding over before bolting to the back seat, Chopper's gift in hand. Now that the tables have turned, it's he who pleads to her mercy. He claims he had only the intention of scaring her, but she ain't no pushover. She expresses her disbelief of his true character and sick actions. She plans on turning him over to the police, but he exploits her past, telling her no one would believe her and he'd be a free man, but she'd be sent to the worst home possible. He offers to give her money and they'd both go their separate ways. She responds by telling him to turn onto dirt road off the freeway. When they stop, she gives him a speech about crooked people like him. He cries again, but she only asks him to accept the Lord as his savior. Then she swiftly. But it isn't over yet, as he is still able to get up and get out of the car and attempt to run. She follows him, making sure that those were his last steps. This makes her sick and she prays for forgiveness. Getting a sign from up above, she quickly proceeds to take everything he has on him before she leaves the scene. She goes to a diner in an unusual state but pays no mind to the attention she's attracting, and when she's told about her appearance, she goes to wash up. Meanwhile, we see the big, bad man is still alive and is at the hospital for attendance and the police. When Vanessa comes out the diner, she's greeted by a swarm of cops. At the hospital, Bob's wife is incredulous that someone would hurt her sweet husband, and she wants the perpetrator to pay with a vengeance. When he is asked to identify Vanessa, he confirms it. During questioning, Vanessa recognizes the investigator from TV. She is asked about Bob, whom she was sure was gone, and isn't the least bit remorseful. She tells them her suspicions about him being the Freeway, even though he didn't explicitly say he was. She had to do it because she didn't want anyone else to get hurt on her conscience. They, however, think she only wanted to rob an innocent man of his belongings, and then they bring up all her prior misdemeanors. She tries to explain those actions, but the one cop makes an unfair insinuation about her which sends her off the rails. She calls him a derogatory name before attacking him. She is restrained, but gets to a phone call. She calls Chopper and is told the bad news. Vanessa is then arraigned, and during her trial, Bob comes in looking completely unrecognizable, and Vanessa makes the worst fun of his condition. They want to trial her as an adult, even though her lawyer argues that she's just a kid with little cognitive agency. She is then sent to detention, where she meets an enthusiastic warden and a strange girl with deep scars on her face.
Her new bunkmate, Rhonda, guesses she must have done something really bad since she is wearing an orange jumpsuit and, like her, who is in for the minor offense of huffing. The strange girl gives her a quick rundown on the place and warns her of an approaching threat called Mosquita and her crew. The welcoming party, however, doesn't go as planned since Vanessa isn't interested in being pushed about making the most aggressive of introductions. She has to be isolated away from the others and sedated, causing her to have strange dreams. When she awakes, she immediately devises a plan of escape, carving up a makeshift breakout device, while the warden narrates her recommendations for Vanessa, suggesting severe punishment. When she's let out, she watches Bob and his wife on TV with Mosquita and the other girls. Bob's wife laments on their misfortunes, including his impotence, also the fact that he can no longer work because of his appearance. She hopes that Vanessa pays dearly for her actions with no sympathy regardless of her background. Bob now uses a voice modulator, showing appreciation to everyone for their support. The interviewer is very sympathetic and admires his bravery. That night, Vanessa wakes up from a feverish nightmare to find Rhonda up and watching her. The strange girl is excited about getting out and can't sleep. The two talk in whispers when Vanessa confides in her of how she sometimes feels like being all alone and shunning out the world, comparing herself to a hermit. She expresses her plan to escape, showing her new friend her tool. She also has no problem messing up anyone who tries to get in her way, as she believes the type of people who work in such places are messed up themselves. In her following court hearing, she still can't take her situation serious, laughing at Bob and Mimi the whole time, while her lawyer argues to trail her as a juvenile because of her many deficiencies in manners and lack of proper education. Meanwhile, the cops interview her old classmates, finding out that although prone to run-ins with the law, Vanessa is rather admired by her peers. They also find out how much she loved her boyfriend and must be taking his loss real hard. When the cop sees Chopper's picture, he realizes that Vanessa can't be a bigot, making his first impressions about her false. This makes him want to revisit the crime scene. When he gets to the scene and looks around, he eventually finds the lock of Vanessa's hair on the ground, confirming his suspicions. Elsewhere, at a rest stop on their way back to detention from court, Vanessa warns the other girls, including Mosquita, about her plans of escape. Feeling like she has nothing to lose, Mosquita offers to personally eliminate the warden and join in on the escape. With that agreed, they lure the warden inside the bathroom and Vanessa detains her. And then Mosquita attacks the woman while the other girls briefly distract the guard. But when he notices the warden's absence, he becomes immediately suspicious just as Vanessa emerges from the bathroom and gives him a superficial womb. Mosquita releases all her frustrations on the woman, after which the duo make a run for it in the officer's car. Later, they meet up with Mosquita's boyfriend. He supplies them with new clothes and a car for Vanessa. With newfound respect for each other, Vanessa apologizes for attacking her when they first met, and Mosquita accepts his apology by giving her another gift she could use, and Vanessa leaves. The next day, the detectives have a warrant to search Bob's house, but he is at the hospital, and Mimi is extremely furious at being treated as though they're the criminals, but she can't stop them. While looking in the back shed, they make a harrowing discovery, cementing Bob's guilt as the Freeway. This revelation sends Mimi into a spiral. She can't believe her husband committed all those heinous crimes. She garners no sympathy from the detectives and runs up to the bathroom and does the unthinkable to herself. Meanwhile, Bob approaches his house, but seeing the heavy presence of police, he immediately turns his car around and flees before he is noticed. Elsewhere, Vanessa seems to be taking a page from her mom's book when she meets a sleazeball weasel, but this is all a ruse and part of her plan to relieve the man of all his belongings. And this slimebag doesn't even have what he said he did. She locks him in the boot of his car and drives away with it. Then we see Bob at a diner looking at Vanessa's grandmother's picture he must have secretly stolen with the woman's address at the back. The police too are now on the search for Bob. Vanessa drives to her grandmother's trailer park, but she can't immediately locate the right one, taking her a little while to find it. When she gets there, she calls out to her grandma but receives no response. The police too arrive at the park and embark on the search for the grandmother's house. Meanwhile, Vanessa finds her grandma in bed, but when she inspects closer, she realizes it's none other than Big Bad Bob underneath the covers. He comes out with a threatening weapon to subdue her as he reveals the misfortune of her real grandmother. And just then a neighbor walks in, which distracts Bob, and he aims at the poor man, but this gives Vanessa a chance to free herself, and a fierce tussle ensues. Bob fires uncontrollably, and that, along with the wounded man, enable the police to find the property, but before they can rush in and save the day, Vanessa emerges from the property victorious, although only a little bruised. The detectives can't believe the scene, but it's a happy ending nonetheless, and the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And see you next time.